Therefore, unfortunate, and this is very important, that on July the 14th, 2023, the spokesperson of the Office of the United Nations Human Rights, OHCHR in Geneva, issued a media statement on protests in some parts of Kenya, in which he alleged, in quotes, widespread violence and unnecessary or disproportionate use of force. He further alleged that 23 people have been killed and dozens injured in the demonstrations. This statement was not only inaccurate but misleading and appeared to have been written in support of a propaganda campaign by people opposed to the democratic will of the people. The ministry has protested to the office of the spokesperson on his unsubstantiated statement. We will be engaging through appropriate channels to ensure that the international community is not sucked into conspiracies that are aimed at destabilizing our nations. Let me break it down. He talks about widespread violence. Where was the widespread violence? We just saw violence in some cities in Europe the other day, which you cannot even compare with what happened in a few places the other day. My grandmother, my aunties were living life very well. You know, you talk about widespread violence as if Kenya was burning. Very wrong. These are language written by people here for them in New York. Talking about disproportionate use of force. We saw areas whereby there were no police at all, and people were destroying roads, burning things with no police presence, where they cannot say that they were incited or provoked by the police. And so they're talking about rebellion. There are about 23 people. Who are those 23 people who they say died? I'd like to know them, their names and others. So they're just throwing names and figures out there. You know, that is bad manners for an organization of such stature. That is really a high level of inefficiency and unprofessional work, because they need to do their own research before they come out issuing letters and statements that are basically full of misinformation. We all know that the violence actions that we've seen by a few paid goons have been politically instigated by known architects of violence and therefore cannot be categorized as peaceful assembly as alleged by the spokesperson. Waiting for the aircraft to... Biashara zinaendelea Kenya. Let me repeat this. The violence acts by a few paid goons have been politically instigated by known architects of violence and therefore cannot be categorized as peaceful assembly as alleged by the spokesperson. They're not peaceful assembly. Far from it, what we have witnessed are violent protests with those involved carrying all manner of crude weapons. We have seen goons destroy a highway with no police around. That is not a peaceful protest. They are not protesting. There are no placards. There are no people shouting slogans. There are no people walking. They are destroying a highway with even no police. Nobody even stopping them. You know, nobody inciting them in terms of saying that they are being provoked by the police.